Randy Jurgensen is a former NYPD detective, best known as the lead investigator into the murder of patrolman Phil Cardio. Jurgensen was born in 1933, to Elizabeth and Randolph Jurgensen, in Harlem, NY. He served in the U.S. Army as a paratrooper and was in the Battle of Pork Chop Hill in the Korean War. He was decorated with 3 Bronze Stars and a Purple Heart. He entered the NYPD in 1958 as a patrolman and was quickly promoted to detective. He worked undercover investigating members of the Black Liberation Army. At one point, the BLA placed a $50,000 bounty on his head, which is believed to still exist today. From 1973 to 1976, he led the Cardio murder investigation. He was forced to retire from the NYPD, pleading no contender to a series of charges brought up on by the NYPD. While still a detective for the NYPD, he began working on films as a consultant. He transitioned to a career in film acting and production and has appeared in more than 30 films. 1972 Harlem Mosque Incident. On April 14, 1972, dispatchers received a 911 call from a Detective Thomas claiming to need assistance at the Nation of Islam's Mosque No. 7 on West 116th Street in Harlem. 5 uniformed officers responded. What happened next is still in dispute. The police say they were overpowered and assaulted. When they arrived, Imam Louis Farrakhan and the other worshippers present say the police interrupted them with guns drawn during prayers, and refused repeated requests to wait or at least leave their guns, which their faith forbid from being carried into a place of worship, outside. At a press conference the next day, he would claim it was a premeditated attack and the 911 call just a ruse. Original investigation. Jurgensen was assigned the case in 1974 after the initial investigator, Basil "Sleepy" Slepowitz, retired. Numerous obstacles were placed in his way. Most notably, he was not allowed to visit the actual crime scene. He requested that any detective from other precincts notify him when any Muslim in the city was arrested. This was done so that he could interview the arrestee with the hopes that there might be a connection to others who were in the mosque at the time of the shooting. After years of fruitless interviews, he got his break when Foster 2X Thomas was arrested on a credit card fraud charge. Thomas was a baker at the mosque in Present on the day of the Cardio murder. Thomas eventually testified at the murder trial of Louis 17X Dupree, who was acquitted after 2 trials. Second investigation. In 2006, Jurgensen published his first book, Circle of Six, which is a recount of the mosque incident and subsequent investigation. After the book was released, NYPD Commissioner Ray Kelly launched a new investigation. Kelly was an NYPD sergeant at the time of the mosque occurrence and knew Jurgensen. In 2012, the NYPD announced that the investigation had yielded no new evidence. Pushed to rename a street. Jurgensen remains active to have a street in New York City renamed after patrolman Cardio. Film career. Jurgensen began working as a technical consultant in the film industry, while a detective for the NYPD. His notable films include The French Connection and Donnie Brasco. Cruising. In the early 1960s, Jurgensen and his partner performed undercover work to investigate homosexual murders in New York City. Homosexuals were being targeted by 2 perpetrators who would pose as police officers. His work was inspiration for the film Cruising, where Al Pacino played his character. Filmography. Acting. 2001-100 Center Street. 1997 Donnie Brasco. 1996 Thinner. 1996 The Juror. 1995 Homicide. Life on the Street. 1983 Vigilante. 1982 Still of the Night. 1981 See China and Die. 1981 Fort Apache The Bronx. 1980 Maniac. 1980 Cruising. 1978 Superman. 1978 The Brinks Job. 1978 Blood Brothers. 1978 To Kill a Cop, 1977 Contract on Cherry Street, 1977 The Godfather, a novel for television, 1977 Sorcerer, 1976 God Told Me To, 1973 Cops and Robbers, 1973 Mr. Inside, Mr. Outside, 1972 The Godfather, 1971 The French Connection.